Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 425 for the 11th of December 2016. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Looking out the window. A bright, sunny morning as I record this introduction. Very nice. Birds are singing out there. Coming up on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone, we start our reports from New Zealand. The New Zealand Skeptics Conference, which was held last weekend in beautiful Queenstown, or just near Queenstown. What a delight it was to be there. What a wonderful place. The scenery was spectacular. The conference was fascinating. On this week's episode, we're going to be visiting Puzzling World, which was the venue for the annual New Zealand Skeptics Dinner and Awards. So we'll be running around Puzzling World with Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. We also have the awards themselves, as read by Mark Honeychurch. And following that, we interview the founder and the owner of Puzzling World, Stuart Landsborough. What is this Puzzling World place all about? Why is it so puzzling? And what's this about a $100,000 New Zealand dollar, that is, prize for psychic powers? Find out at the top of the show. And more interviews from the New Zealand Skeptics Conference in the weeks to come. And I must say a big thank you to Brad MacClure, Mark Honeychurch, and all the people involved in the New Zealand Skeptics annual conference. I was very happy to be part of that, despite the fact that just after I gave my own talk on the Saturday of the conference, the trans-Tasman cold hit me like a ton of bricks. Goodness me. So for those people at the conference, if you saw me sneezing or coughing or what else I was doing, I hope you understand why. That was just one of those things. But I'm almost better. Never mind, I still had a wonderful time in New Zealand. Following that New Zealand report, it's Take Stock with Shelley Stocken. Are twins psychic? That's the question Shelley poses today, because she is, in fact, a twin, an identical twin. Is she psychic? Is her sister psychic? Do they know which is what and who is who? Do they know what each other is thinking? Find out with Shelley Stocken coming up later on in the show. Then we have more Brew Ha Ha, short science snippets from AustralianScience.tv. This week, it's Ben Lewis with 3 science segments. Say that quickly. Then to round off the show, and inspired by a conversation I had with Mark Honeychurch in New Zealand, I'm going to be reading out a letter I wrote many years ago to one of the TV networks here in Australia when they started showing the program Sensing Murder. Now, Sensing Murder is a show where they drag so-called psychics around the countryside and see if they can come up with fresh clues or evidence to long since unsolved murders and missing people and things like that. And the news is another series of this show will be made in New Zealand. In fact, this series has been made in New Zealand for some years now. I think it originally started in Denmark or Norway or something like that. It's a franchise. So I'll be reading out a letter to the network I wrote when I was the president, one of the times I was president of Australian Skeptics in the early 2000s, and the network's reply. And look out, here's a spoiler: no, psychics do not find missing people and solve crimes. I'm sure you'll be shocked to hear that. Now, in other news, friends of the Skepdoc, Harriet Hall, you probably know by now, but last week after she attended the Australian Skeptics convention in Melbourne, she was out travelling around the countryside and she had a bit of a fall. She fell over in the middle of Australia near Alice Springs, as far as I know. A nasty fall indeed. She had broken bones, was pretty messed up. and was airlifted to Adelaide, where she has been recovering in hospital with surgery and bits and pieces ever since. The good news is, and I just saw this last night, she has been discharged from hospital and she'll be spending some time here in Australia to recuperate, I imagine, before flying home. So all the best, Harriet. I'm was very shocked to hear that you had that awful fall. Glad that you're out of hospital, and I hope that you, and we all hope, of course, that you have a speedy recovery. And thank goodness for modern science and modern medicine, indeed. More news of other matters at the end of the show, but now it's time for me to run downstairs, get some crumpets out of the fridge. Crumpets, remember those? Yeah, put them in the toaster. I have 4. I've got a toaster which has room for 4. 4 crumpets. Yeah, crumpet those up. You crumpet up a crumpet, toast up a crumpet with a little bit of butter, of course. The butter melts through the little crumpet holes. One will have Vegemite. Sorry, folks who don't like Vegemite. One will have honey. One will have just butter. And one might have a bit of quince jam. What a combination! Well, I go to crumpet heaven. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. The 2016 New Zealand Skeptics Conference was held in beautiful Queenstown in the South Island of New Zealand, or to be more precise, in Frankton, which is just near Queenstown. In fact, just near the Queenstown airport was the venue for the conference. Over 2.5 days, we had very interesting talks, ranging from my talk about strange devices, Susan Gerbic talking about guerrilla skepticism, Loretta Marin talking about friends of science and medicine, naturalist Andrew Digby was there, Mark Hanna discussing science with consumer activism in mind, a wonderful presentation by New Zealand teacher Tanya Lineman, and so much more. We pick up the action at the venue for the New Zealand Skeptics annual dinner, and this was at a place called Puzzling World, which was a magical place full of brain-fooling puzzles and optical illusions and tricks and all sorts of things. I was running around with Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia.
And what are you going to do in here?
I'm with Susan Gerbic again. We're at Puzzling World, Susan. I'm afraid
I'm puzzled.
You're puzzled. I'm afraid the Trans-Tasman cold has caught up with me a little bit tonight, unfortunately. But
you're a trooper. You're doing
trooping
great.
on. We're in this massive room. We have giant faces on the wall of Winston Churchill, Mother Teresa, Albert Einstein, Nelson Mandela, Beethoven, Abraham Lincoln, and Vincent van Gogh. And they're all looking at us, and no matter how we walk around the room, they all follow. It's just stunning, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a video. I'll send you this video. This is crazy. It's so, wow. And then when you go up close to them, you see what it is. This is great. Children need to come to places like this because it helps them teach them the critical thinking skills of what you see is not what it is.
Yeah. And it's a famous illusion. They're all concave faces, but they look convex.
It's exactly like the dragon that Jerry Anders did. And I don't know if Jerry Anders invented the dragon illusion, but this is it.
So all the faces follow you.
Yes.
No matter where you are in the room, they're looking at you. And they're rotating. Well, why don't we go around here and we'll just do one more loop of this crazy room.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
So they have a room here which is tilted quite dramatically.
Like a mystery spot.
Like these places in the world where things seem to run uphill, and this room demonstrates this dramatically. There's my voice going.
It's a really large room. I mean, I've been to the mystery spot a couple times in Santa Cruz, California, but this is bigger. This is more intense.
And this one really plays with your... I think we can sneak in through these. No, yes, we can.
Oops, sorry.
We'll take a shortcut through this gate here. Here we go. The Tilted House, it's called. Oh, and the first thing we see is water running uphill. And you can hear it. But it's a series of hollowed out logs or something, and there's water just going uphill. It's bizarre.
What interests me a lot is that he said, "Oh, don't fall over," is that they said that it affects women more because something in our brains, the balance, it upsets us more.
It might be anecdotal. I don't know. There could be some science behind that.
He said it doesn't really bother the children.
Now, we're walking in this weird room, but we're walking definitely uphill, but there's a pool table here, there's a series of steps and everything, and it's all designed to completely confound you. So you don't know which is at an angle and which is up and which is down. I think I have to walk out of this room now. It's playing havoc with me.
Oh, my God.
Back to reality. Oh, here we are on the other side. So I hope to score an interview with the man who founded Puzzling World. He also has a $100,000 challenge for psychics here.
I didn't realize that.
Didn't you see it?
No.
Come with me. All right. I'll show you the $100,000 challenge. Now, this isn't from the New Zealand Skeptics. This is a challenge which is here at Puzzling World. I'll walk down this.
We're going downstairs. What are we going to get to eat, Richard?
Yes, that's a good question. Soon, I hope. We're not going downstairs. We're going down a ramp.
That's downstairs.
That's downstairs. Past other optical illusions on the wall. We're coming back down here. Now, if we turn this corner, passing lots of holograms as we go. Crazy holograms. And we come out to this sort of the cafeteria or gift shop, I suppose it is. And we find on the wall here, look at this.
Oh!
It's a giant $100,000 psychic challenge.
I didn't notice this. I haven't been this far. I got lost in some of the other things here. I'll take a picture of it so you can put it up on the website.
We can take a picture of it. Psychicchallenge.co.nz is the website. Ooh. I think you and I are a bit overcome with all that disorientation.
Oh my gosh, that was just that was so dizzying. I need to sit. Wow, I feel like I've been in turbulence for half an hour or something.
We have. It took us over an hour on a windy road in a bus to get here.
Oh man.
So to cite the source and not to misquote.
Hi everybody, this is Susan Gerbic. I'm doing the roving reporting for the Skeptic Zone. I can cross this off my bucket list now. And we're at Puzzling World with the New Zealand Skeptics. And I am here to ask several people, how you doing? Who you are? How are you enjoying the conference?
Clive is my name.
Hi, I'm Russell.
Hi, I'm Victoria.
Johnny. Hello, Ben.
I'm here because I like being sceptical, and that's a hard thing in the normal world. And it's great, amazing, good speakers.
Hi, I'm here because I really enjoy meeting similar-minded people.
I'm here out of curiosity to get a few views challenged and maybe see what killed that cat.
I'm here because my dad made me come. No, my university is not skeptically minded enough for me, and I'm really enjoying the conference. It's been great so far.
I'm here as a skeptic, and because they'd probably have to pay a lot more for the sound if I wasn't.
Then it came time to announce the winners of the annual awards, starting off with the Bent Spoon Award.
So now we're on to the awards. So, the NZ Skeptics have 3 awards, as I'm sure most people have seen today. We bring up the Wikipedia page, etc. And the first award we have is the Bent Spoon. Now, each year the New Zealand Skeptics announce the Bent Spoon Award for the New Zealand organisation which has shown the most egregious gullibility or lack of critical thinking in public coverage of or commentary on a science-related issue. And we never have a lack of candidates, let's be honest. So we have a couple of runners-up that I thought were of note, so we should mention them tonight. The first one is we have TVNZ. Now, TVNZ have been shamelessly showing old episodes of Sensing Murder. And Sensing Murder is a TV programme that exploits and sensationalises local murders by getting psychics to pretend that they're helping police to solve the crimes. And it is just a disgusting show. And if that wasn't enough, this year TVNZ are filming a new season of the programme. So come next year, back on our TV screens, we're going to have more of Sensing Murder, unfortunately. So all we can do really is get on stuff, get on the Herald, and when articles come up, just jump into the comments and be sceptical. Okay, so the next runner-up, as I think probably most people could guess, would be it's Bishop Brian Tamaki. Maybe we should have him every year as at least a runner-up, but this year he's done amazingly well. So this year he claimed that earthquakes are caused by certain types of sin, especially sins like being gay. Just unbelievable. For me, the worst bit of this, the most worrying bit, is that he gave this sermon only hours before our earthquakes recently. And because it happened before, my worry is that a lot of his flock are going to think that maybe he knew that it was coming. Maybe he has got this direct line to God. And that really scares me because people already pay him a lot of money. I think he's going to get more and goodness knows what he's going to do with it. So, next up, on to the winner. And the winner of our bed spoon for this year is the New Zealand Herald. So, the NZ Herald is a New Zealand newspaper with an illustrious 150-year history. It's been going for a long time. However, in recent years, the quality has been slipping, as I'm sure people have seen with their online clickbait. It's just getting worse. So, the kind of stuff they've been publishing, within the last year, they had an article on how to pick winning lottery numbers, and they interviewed a guy from the States that figured that he sorted out the formula. He knew how to get lucky numbers. They then had another article about which shops selling lotto tickets were the lucky ones, the ones that you should go to increase your chance of winning the lottery. They then had articles like one saying that selfies can damage your skin. So if you take selfies with your phone, the light from that can damage your skin. We had another article saying that drinking a bottle of wine a day is more healthy than drinking no alcohol. Alright, I've lost the audience sympathy now, haven't I? And the only disclaimer for these articles, those last two, was just scientists said. There was no skeptical content, there was no saying this is obviously not believed by the majority of scientists, or this is a wacky theory. They just went with it as if that's enough to be authority. But of special note, and I think it's annoyed me, I imagine it's annoyed Mark Hanna and a few others, is Sandra Clare, who's been allowed to write a regular column on herbal remedies. Now, Sandra Clare happens to run a herbal remedy company called Artemis. And a lot of I think we've checked on pretty much everything that she suggests, which is good for a medical condition. Every herb that she says is something that her company sells. So really it's just adverts, but it's dressed as news, and that is just unconscionable. So for that, the New Zealand Herald are the winner of this year's Bed Spoon.
The other awards on the night were the Bravo Awards, given as thanks and gratitude from the New Zealand Skeptics and encouragement. This year's winners in the media were Lachlan Forsyth, Dr. Jess Berenson-Shaw, Laura Walters, Rachel Thomas, and even Mark Hanna and Mark Honeychurch. The Skeptic of the Year is Dr. Susie Wiles. The following day I caught up with Stuart Landsborough, the founder of Puzzling World, who told me something of its history and also about his $100,000 psychic prize. Well, the other night we had a wonderful dinner at the New Zealand Skeptics conference at Puzzling World, and I'm very lucky to be standing with the what would you call yourself, the founder, the inventor?
The founder, the inventor, and now retired and still own it, and so still enjoy it.
You do. I was there, as I said, just last night, and it's Stuart Landsborough, isn't it?
Stuart Landsborough, yeah. And I started in 1973 as a very young man of 27, something like that, and so you can't see me on this thing here, but I'm 70 now, so that's a long time ago. 1973, And I wanted to build a business of my own. I wanted to build a business in tourism, and I wanted to try and do something very, very different. I had an advantage that I probably had a father who was the most imaginative business person in the world, just about. He started so many businesses just after the war, and the imagination was amazing. So me and my brothers, we just grew up without realizing that that's what normal people are not like. Most people grow up thinking there's limitations. We grew up thinking that imagination was normal.
All right, so for somebody who's wondering what Puzzling World is all about, what would be the quick description, and where is it located exactly for our listeners?
All right. First of all, it's in New Zealand.
Yes.
And it's in Wanaka. Wanaka is in central Otago, not too far from Queenstown. Yeah. What is it? It's evolved since 1973 from a very simple idea of a very basic one-level maze. Some years later, I introduced a small puzzle shop, and I realized that the maze was also a puzzle, so therefore I had the first sort of puzzle theme. Years later, I introduced a hologram exhibition hall. Now, they're not puzzles, but they're puzzling.
Yes.
So
I love them.
They're still wonderful, even though we have so many amazing things out of technology nowadays. But and so the theme became puzzling, so it's evolved. And then after that, I started to, somehow or other, I realized that eccentricity is noticeable and good advertising too. Yeah. And so I started to build eccentric-looking buildings that lean so much. I mean, we have one building that leans 53 degrees on one corner. Well, the Leaning Tower of Pisa only leans 6 degrees, and it's not even on one corner. So I believe, although ours is a lot smaller than Pisa, it still looks pretty darn good.
It does. It's quite staggering. It's one of the first things you see when you arrive.
Yeah. Well, the incredible buildings as you go through along the main highway are so noticeable, and they've been put in the place so that you have to see them. Mm. And my feeling is that eccentricity is very, very understandable and enjoyable by all ages and all nationalities and all mentalities, intelligent or not very intelligent. And so, therefore, in New Zealand, especially in a remote place like this, we need as many people as possible in the business to be able to afford to keep building new and unusual things. And therefore, if we marketed to a small portion of the market coming through, just like, say, young children or adults only, or especially for Chinese or especially for Indian, we'd be limiting our market very much. So the success we've had is basically that we target everybody. Mm. The other success we've had is that we actually don't target children in our advertising. Long time ago, my first year, I suddenly realized that if you target children with an entertainment, you don't get the adults in. Uh-huh. Adults think, they drive past and they'll think, oh, gosh, that's interesting. I wish I had our children with us. And so, therefore, you don't need to advertise to children because they want to go in anyhow.
Right, of course.
So, therefore, all my advertising I try to put in is with adult photographs so you don't frighten the adults away.
Well, I mean, we were there last night with a group of adults, and they were running around like children. To this room, to that room, to the room which is at
an angle. Tilt-a house, we call it.
Tilt-a house, which completely disorientates you and confuses your senses. There's a giant room of faces, and nothing there. And it never crossed my mind that this wouldn't appeal to everybody. It certainly appealed to all of us. Now, the other interesting aspect of what you do, or what you have been doing for many years, is you too, like the Australian Skeptics, you have a $100,000 psychic challenge.
100,000 New Zealand dollars, yes. So it's not quite as big as the Australian,
almost,
but probably better, I think. No, only joking.
Now, what's the history behind that?
Starting in 1994, which is getting a long time ago now, I had my puzzle centre, Puzzling Eccentricity idea there, and I realised that with my scepticism and my sort of wanting to do something to help against psychics and those sort of people there, I could introduce something into my business that didn't stand out like a sore thumb. It actually fitted in quite well. And so, therefore, I started the challenge for $50,000 in those days, because that's a lot of money in those days, yeah. And then I had a promissory note hidden somewhere within about 5 kilometres. I was a little bit nervous in the first days, because of the fact, although I'm completely sceptical, you always wonder whether you're going to lose somehow or other. Yes, yeah. But anyhow, I had my first challenger, and she was totally useless. She was a psychic that sort of went and sold her skills for money and still failed. And then, so I reduced it to 200 metres from the location in the middle of the puzzling world. And next, altogether, I've had what I call 7 serious challenges since that time. Many I have refused as challenges, partly because some of them are on the internet and they want to do it from overseas. Well, you can't do that, because if they got it right, I could quite easily, they could say I'm not telling the truth. Right. And so they had to be there. And then when people did the challenge, when they failed, I always showed them where the promissory note was hidden. And then, of course, when they went away, I had relocated it. Of course, yes. Of course, yeah. And so over the years, I moved it around after each one. I'd have thousands and thousands of people who would like to take the challenge up, but to stop wasting my time, I made $1,000. They had to pay me $1,000, supposedly, to do the challenge. Of course, when they actually made the appointment, and in the end I didn't take the $1,000, because that was just one way of making sure that I had serious challengers who believed in themselves. Otherwise, that'd be a full-time job, just
people lining up.
Yes, because I think, well, I might get a slight chance of getting it lucky.
Of course.
And anyhow, so round about... oh, goodness knows, it's quite a lot of years now ago, probably about 15 years ago, I reduced it to within 100 metres of the centre of Puzzling World there. And I also state that it's located somewhere in a place that's very easy to visualise. In other words, not in the middle of a lawn, because, of course, where in the lawn do you visualise a blade of grass, but something that is so easy to visualise that I could put the message across through the ether and they should be able to get it. But because it's getting to a smaller and smaller radius, there's a limited amount of things you can visualise. So I actually divided the promissory note into 2, cut it in half, and I located it in 2 different places. Now, the idea of this was, my philosophy there is that if a psychic can find one, they have no problems in finding 2. So it's not making it harder for them, but what it is, it means that there's no chance of them actually getting it right by accident.
Well, and you don't want people to get it right by accident. If someone's going to get it, you want it to be through genuine psychic ability,
Absolutely.
If that exists. Yeah.
But the other thing, of course, is that people often say, well, what happens if they get it nearly right? And of course, and I say, well, what do you mean nearly right? Do you mean 1 inch away, or let's say 2 centimetres, a metre away, 10 metres away, 20 metres away? When does it become nearly right? And surely to goodness, if they get it nearly right, they should then be able to get it right.
Yes.
So they're either right or wrong. There's nothing in between.
I agree. And it's important to make that distinction. Otherwise, you get people arguing about the results and things like that. We find that.
Yeah. So I've had, as I say, 7 people try the challenge. They're not all so-called psychics. One of them was a water diviner. Oh, right. Well, not a water diviner, divined anything.
Diviner, yes, in general.
With his rods. And curious enough, his rods went up and down all over the place in multiple places and never right. Oh. I had one born-again Christian that went home for the night. He went home and said, I'm going to pray tonight and I'll come back tomorrow with the answer. He never came back.
He had his answer then.
That's right.
Don't do it.
Probably, yeah. But then I had an interesting one that I didn't actually take up, and that was quite a nice young lady, probably about 30. She walked into our puzzle centre with her young child, and she asked for me, and I went across and said, can I help you? And she said, I'd like to accept your challenge. And I said, oh, fine. And I told her the rules. She said, well, actually, what you've got to do is you've got to put your hands on my bare breasts. And because somehow or other there was a message from my from her breasts to... No, the other way around, isn't it? From my head to my hands to her breasts. And I looked at her and I thought, no.
Well, that would be interesting story for the media, I'm sure, but maybe best left that one alone.
I didn't want to risk it, but she was a very nice young lady. But they're actually all nice people.
Yeah.
And they always lost with good humour. I had another person wanted to challenge me. Actually, one other person did accept the challenge, but some weeks or months before, she rang up and said, "Can I do it over the phone?" And I said, "No." And so she said, "Well, can we do it for fun, without the money and without getting the prize if I win?" And I said, "Okay, what do you just talk to me?" And she said, "Now I can visualise the entrance to your puzzling world," she said, "and I can visualise a big, spreading old tree at the entranceway." And immediately I knew she was wrong, because it was pretty bare of anything apart from a few slender young poplar trees. So she got that wrong there. But she came back a few months later, and she did the challenge. But when she finished, I had to show her where it was. So I said, "Well, look, follow me." And I took her up to my house, which was about 100 metres away. Uh-huh. And I took her into the living room, and there was my partner of 2 years. And I said to my partner, "I've got to show these people where the psychic challenge promissory note is." And my wife became very indignant. She said, "I have cleaned every inch of this house in the last 2 years, and it's not in this house." So I said, "Oh, yes, it is." And I took them up to the toilet, and I lifted the lid off the cistern of the toilet, and here it was been floating for 2 years up and down in a gem jar. So I proved my wife wasn't as good a cleaner as she thought she was.
Now, if people want to find out more about Puzzling World, and hopefully when they're in New Zealand they can come for a visit, or locals, what's the address and what's the website?
Well, the address of Puzzling World is just basically Main Highway, Wanaka. You can't miss it as you go into Wanaka. It's so visual.
And the Puzzling World?
The Puzzling World is puzzlingworld.co.nz. So it's puzzlingworld.co.nz.
Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to my next visit, where I'll be undoubtedly confused and puzzled once again.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed talking to you.
More interviews and reports from the New Zealand Skeptics Conference in the following weeks. This December in California, I'll be giving my talk Strange Energies and Even Stranger Devices, Too Good to Be True, on the 29th and the 30th of December. The talk on the 29th of December will be in Berkeley, and on the 30th in Irvine. My hosts for the Berkeley event will be the Bay Area Skeptics, and my hosts in Irvine will be the Orange County Science Club. For more information and to book your seat, see the show notes linked to this episode of The Skeptic Zone. I'm looking forward to seeing you in California.
Greetings, listeners. It's me, Captain Disillusion. On my YouTube channel called Captain Disillusion, I, Captain Disillusion, analyze viral videos of the strange and unbelievable. I explain how interframe video compression, 3D motion tracking, and stock VFX elements prove that Justin Bieber is not a secret reptilian alien, that those videos of ghost cars are just unintentional optical illusions, and that lightning did not strike a few feet away from a girl on a beach as we saw in the news. I'm real fun at parties. My best friend is a lens flare.
Eat a dimmer switch, Disillusion.
I do know other people. Sometimes they even show up in my videos. People like Skepticism's grandpa, James Randi, Cirque du Soleil acrobat Erica Lins, weight loss enthusiast Penn Jillette, and the actual Beekman from Beekman's World. I hope you'll check out my adventures, interact with me in a platonic way, and even consider becoming a patron of my work. You can do all that and more on YouTube or at CaptainDisillusion.com.
Interesting claims. Questioning. Take stock with Shelley Stocken.
Hi, this is Shelley Stocken, and I think I'm psychic. Yep. I mean, I haven't accurately predicted the future or spoken to any dead people recently. But for many years, over and over again, I've been told by people, even people I hardly know, that I'm psychic. You see, I'm an identical twin. Now, when someone I meet discovers I'm a twin, a typical exchange goes like this. Oh my God, you're a twin? Yes. Are you identical? Yes. Do you know what your sister's thinking? Can you feel her pain? Are you psychic? Yeah, no. Many people are convinced that twins have a special psychic connection, that they read each other's thoughts, or that they in fact share a single mind. Where does this idea come from? Perhaps the first reference to twin telepathy is in Alexander Dumas' 1844 novella, The Corsican Brothers, in which conjoined twin brothers, separated at birth, continue to feel the pain of the other throughout their lives. Since then, the idea that twins share thoughts and sensations has been repeated over and over in books, films, and other forms of popular culture, to the point where it's become a widely accepted, if not proven, phenomenon. It's not unusual for twins to finish each other's sentences when speaking, or think of each other when they're physically separated, which only serves to confirm the psychic idea in some people's minds, including some twins. Some even make careers out of it. Most famously, Linda and Terry Jamison, otherwise known as the Psychic Twins, have built something of an empire around their claimed psychic abilities. More than just a sideshow of cute twinny coincidences, these twins, born in Pennsylvania and now living in California, have been making money from their skills for more than 25 years and claim to have predicted 9/11, several aeroplane crashes, and the Paris terror attacks. There appears to be as much evidence for the psychic twins' abilities as there is for any other celebrity psychic's abilities. But what about my own personal experience? I can remember my sister and I having the same dream on the same night when we were children. When we were a little older, out dancing in the city, I developed a sudden headache. Just outside the nightclub, my sister had accidentally been pushed over and had hit her head on a wall. One day, we turned up at a birthday party wearing the same brand and style of jeans, which we'd bought from the same online store during the previous week. And recently, without any prior consultation, we met each other at the airport wearing black suits, black shoes, and black and white striped tops. We are constantly finishing each other's sentences. We can often manage to have a complete conversation using little more than a few grunts and giggles in our own special language. Is all this evidence of psychic abilities? Science says no. None of the studies done on twins show any convincing evidence of telepathy, ESP, or other psychic phenomena. For example, in 1993, Susan Blackmore and Frances Chamberlain performed tests on identical twins in which they were placed in separate rooms and asked to draw a picture, choose a photograph, or write a number that their sibling was thinking of. The researchers performed these tests under conditions that would indicate if the twins' performance was due to thought concordance, that is, thinking more similarly than other people, or ESP. The discussion of the study in the Journal of the Society for Psychical Research says, quote, "In many everyday situations, thought concordance might easily be misinterpreted as a meaningful coincidence, as telepathy, or some other form of ESP. If twins have greater thought concordance than others, then they are likely to have these experiences more often. This in turn may encourage them to think they have experienced the paranormal or have psychic ability, whether they do or not." End quote. Dr. Nancy Segal, director of the Twin Studies Centre at California State University, also says no. When asked about the existence of an extrasensory connection between twins in an interview for National Geographic, she said, "I've never directly witnessed anything like that. Twins do sometimes say they can sense when the other is in trouble. Of course, when you worry about somebody 20 times a day, chances are that one of those times they're going to really need your help. That doesn't make it telepathy." Despite what Nancy Segal and other researchers say, the spookily frequent coincidences that occur with twins are still pretty amazing. At least they seem amazing, until you think about how many things happen that aren't coincidences. I mean, I'll always recall the night my sister and I had the same dream, but the many thousands of nights we've dreamed differently are easily forgotten. For every day that I've chosen the same outfit as my sister, there have been hundreds and hundreds of days I haven't. And that night I had a headache when my sister injured her head. It was late at night, I'd been drinking alcohol and dancing to loud music. A headache was almost inevitable, regardless of my sister's misfortune. Of course, amazing coincidences happen to people who aren't twins too. But if we already have it in our minds that twins have a kind of psychic connection, then that will influence our perception of an anecdote. For example, if you hear about two totally unrelated people who both marry doctors and both have 2 children 2 years apart, you might not think much of it. But if it's a pair of twins separated at birth who do the same thing, you might think, whoa. The experiences my sister and I have shared might seem incredible to some people and appear to demonstrate amazing psychic abilities. But they're really no big deal if you consider we grew up at exactly the same time and spent nearly every minute of every day in each other's company until we finished school. We still speak to each other every day. So we know each other better than most people can know anyone. We share the same memories, which are triggered by the same words or events. We approach situations and react to stimuli in similar ways. We're attracted to similar people and things. We have similar values, standards, passions, and puns. People often treat us as if we were the same person. With that kind of background, having the same thoughts and dreams seems rather less remarkable. Even so, I still think I might be psychic. At least as psychic as any other psychic person I've met. Now, just before I go, I want to say hi to my sister Jo, if you're listening, which I already know you are, of course, because I'm psychic. Also because I told you I was doing this and when it was coming out, and if you don't listen to it, I'll be pretty annoyed. But mostly because, you know, the psychic thing. Thanks for listening.
And now, direct from the cafe at Australia's Science Channel, it's Brew Ha Ha with Ben Lewis.
It's the 1st of December, and if you're anything like me, you're rushing to get everything done before the end of the year. So hold on tight, because we're going to squeeze in a science smorgasbord of everything that's excited us today. A group of 14 South African schoolgirls are designing and building Africa's first private satellite. It'll launch next year to track climate effects. Boom, girl power. A group of students in Australia have worked out how to make the drug Daraprim in a school lab. The same drug that the world's most hated man, Martin Shkreli, jacked the price to over $1,000 per dose. These kids, they've done it for $2. You know what else costs $2? Most things at the tuck shop. Coincidence? I think not. The Pope has called out climate deniers, saying there has never been such a clear need for science. Scientists responded, the guy in the funny hat's right. Now, should we have a chat about evolution? The UK has just released plastic banknotes, and it turns out they contain a very small amount of extract from beef tallow. Of course, we're probably to blame. Polymer banknotes are an Australian invention. So, sorry vegetarians, no more eating money. And finally, scurvy is back in Sydney. Break out the fresh fruit and veggies, because while talking like a pirate might be cool, being sick as one isn't. You've just finished your morning coffee and you're left holding that paper cup looking for a way to get rid of it. Do you recycle it or throw it in the trash? Chances are if your name is written on it, you'll be putting it into the recycling. But if it's just another generic cup, you'll chuck it in the bin. People are more likely to recycle things they see as part of their identity. That feeling can be created by something as little as having their name written on it. So if a barista jots your name onto a cup, you're twice as likely to recycle it than if it's blank. But if that barista spells your name wrong, you're even less likely to recycle it. You kind of think, well, it's just not me. And it's not just coffee cups. It goes for other items too. So baristas out there, it's up to you. Write our names on our cups, and for goodness sake, spell them correctly. And you can help make a difference saving the world. Be a hero. And everyone else, you know what, just get a reusable cup. It's much better for everyone involved. Welcome to the neighbourhood Proxima b. The newly discovered exoplanet orbits the nearest star to our own sun, Proxima Centauri, a mere 4.2 light-years away. There's still much to find out about it, but let's assume that it has an atmosphere and water and take the short 80,000-year hop over for a quick getaway. The first thing you'll probably notice is the sky has 3 suns. That's 50% better than Tatooine. But unfortunately, Proxima b is really close to its red dwarf star. Firstly, this means that everything is sepia tone, kind of like living permanently inside an Instagram filter. Proxima Centauri also lashes the planet with solar flares, meaning you'll either have a wicked tan or be burnt to a crisp, so you better pack the sunscreen. But it will be pleasant. The temperature is thought to be about 30 degrees Celsius. And after a hard day of exploring the surface, you'll probably be looking forward to some shut-eye. But unfortunately, sleep won't come easy, as Proxima b is tidally locked, meaning one side is always in the light. And the other side, it'll probably be full of goths, thanks to its permanent darkness. So while it might not be the best holiday destination in the universe, the discovery of an Earth-like planet so close to us is still the most exciting thing that's happened in the search for exoplanets so far.
For more Brew Ha Ha and Australian science, head for www.australiascience.tv.
During my recent trip to New Zealand for the New Zealand Skeptics annual conference, I discovered that another series of the wretched show Sensing Murder is going to be produced in 2017. For those of you who don't know, this is the show where they take psychics, they take people claiming psychic power around the countryside and ask them to find new information, fresh clues for cold case murders. I first saw this show way back in 2003 or 2004 here in Australia, where it was produced by the 7 Network for one series and then migrated to the 10 Network for probably another series. And then it seemed to just disappear from our screens. The production apparently then headed to New Zealand, where it's been plaguing that country ever since. In 2004, when I was the president of the Australian Skeptics, I wrote the following letter to David Mott, who was then the general manager network programming. To David Mott, General Manager Network 10, Australia. Dear Mr. Mott, I am writing to voice my protest at Network 10 for producing the TV series Sensing Murder. I assure you this is no knee-jerk, all psychics are rubbish reaction. My concern is based on 2 grounds. First, the claim that so-called psychics can and have played a role in solving crimes is false. And second, that their meddling in criminal investigations is, to say the least, counterproductive. If psychics really could solve crimes, wouldn't every police force around the world have a psychic division? Imagine the dramatic improvement in clear-up rates and the deterrent effect on would-be criminals. Imagine the relief to families of the missing and murdered when the psychics provided the answers they so desperately were seeking. I'm afraid that imagining is all you can do, as you know as well as I that this is just not the case. In fact, in terms of criminal investigations, psychics are regarded as pests. They waste time and police resources and consistently fail to provide investigators with any information that could lead to the solution of crimes or the discovery of missing persons. And far from helping the families of the missing and murdered, psychics often hound these unfortunate people, using their suffering as a tool of self-promotion. The great damage that this show will do, apart from giving false hope to the families of murder victims, is to promote the mistaken belief that psychics can and do help the police by using their supposed supernatural powers. The farce that is sensing murder will no doubt add to this sad situation. All this in the name of ratings, as, after all, it is a TV show format designed to get bums on seats, not to solve crimes. If I'm wrong, then where is the evidence? After all these years, which criminal has been convicted? Which missing person has been found due to vital information from psychic powers? Sensing Murder and Network 10 are now in the running to win the annual Bent Spoon Award at our national convention being held this November in Sydney. I would also like to praise the 7 Network for the show Forensic Investigators, a fascinating series that promotes the real work of scientific criminal investigations that do solve crimes. I leave you with a quote from the father of Jeanette Tate, a 13-year-old English girl who disappeared in 1978. Many people came to us offering threads of hope. We clutched at them desperately in the early days. But the promises of the psychics were all lies. They raised false hope in us. At times we really believed we were onto something. The suggestions and ideas preyed on our minds, but always, when it came to the crunch, the so-called leads and ideas led absolutely nowhere but into a pit of despair. We discovered that the work of the psychics was not just ludicrous and laughable, it was sinister and evil. Once we got into that web of deceit, and that is what it was, we found it very hard to struggle free. None of it ever led anywhere except to despair and disappointment, misery and confusion. We had become enslaved to the suggestions of the psychics. From Lynn Kelly's book, The Skeptic's Guide to the Paranormal, page 154 to 155. Please call Australian Skeptics on the number below for more information and comment. Yours truly, Richard Saunders, President, Australian Skeptics, Inc. Shortly after came the reply. To Mr. Richard Saunders, President, Australian Skeptics, Inc. Dear Mr. Saunders, Sensing Murder. Thank you for your letter dated 27th of September 2004 regarding the series Sensing Murder. The type of material that may be broadcast on commercial television is governed by the Commercial Television Industry Code of Practice. The code has been registered with the Australian Broadcasting Authority and has been formulated after extensive consultation with government advisory bodies, community interest groups, and the public generally. It sets out the requirements for a program to comply with a particular classification category and the times at which programs of a particular classification category may be broadcast. We take care to ensure that our programs and program promotions comply with these provisions, as well as other relevant laws, program standards, and industry codes. Sensing Murder is classified M, which recommends viewing for mature viewers of 15 years and older. In addition to this classification, the program carries consumer advice lines noting the principal elements that have contributed to the application of the M classification. Classifications and consumer advice are provided so that viewers may make informed viewing decisions for themselves and those in their care. The period after 8:30 p.m. is allocated to programs directed at mature viewers. Sensing Murder is a true crime documentary drama series. It examines unsolved crimes and features reconstructions based on forensic information, extensive research with case experts, and interviews with police who are involved in the investigation. The program differentiates itself by departing from conventional detective work regarding psychics, who are charged with attempting to supply hitherto unknown information about the crime. The program is designed to be entertaining, as it neither endorses nor promotes psychics or the other paranormal phenomena. Directed at mature adults, it invites viewers to make up their own evaluations of the information supplied by the psychics. The program is created for entertainment purposes, and it does not sanction psychic activities. In addition, the program makes it explicit that the police do not endorse or use psychics in the course of their duties. We do appreciate your concerns. Letters such as yours provide valuable feedback about community standards. Thank you for taking the time to write to us. Yours sincerely, David Mott, General Manager, Network Programming, 10 Network. Some years later, when I was a TV judge on the TV show The One, the subject of psychic detectives came up when one of the challenges given to our contestants was to solve a cold case. I was asked, and I put my opinions on psychic detectives quite strongly, followed by my co-judge, Stacey DeMarco.
Okay, Richard, is there a place for psychics in work like this, in police work?
From my point of view, no, there's not. There's not, because to this date, I know of no psychic who has successfully brought a case to conclusion, found the villain, found the body, solved the case using psychic powers.
Stacey?
Whether Richard likes it or knows of it or not, there are police that have used psychics in the past to assist them with cases that has led to convictions. Whether skeptics want to believe that or not, it's sort of a pattern of pathological disbelief as far as I'm concerned.
I'm willing to accept that, Stacey, if you can bring me the cases.
Oh, well, I guess we'll be talking after the show.
Okay.
And in case you're wondering, no, nothing was said to me afterwards. No cases were brought forward. So it's disappointing to hear that another series of Sensing Murder will be made in New Zealand. Maybe they could start the new series with a special show outlining all the cases they've solved on Sensing Murder over the years.
Now on Belfast FM, we turn to the personal ads. Easygoing and confident skeptic seeks other critical thinkers for fun, laughter and good times. Must be willing to apply logic liberally and a good listener. Expect something new and interesting every month. Come and meet me in Belfast in Northern Ireland. If this sounds like you, check out my profile on belfastskeptics.com. Music by Kevin MacLeod.
Amazing news for supporters of Maynard.com.au and Maynard's podcasts. You are entitled, yes you are entitled to download the 2017 Maynard calendar. Be the first person on your block and your city, perhaps even your country, to own the 2017 Maynard calendar. Yes, spend every month with Maynard. For more information, visit www.maynard.com.au and send Maynard a message asking about your 2017 Maynard downloadable printable calendar. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and thank you once again to those wonderful people who chip into the Skeptic Zone every week via PayPal or Patreon, and you can visit skepticzone.tv to find out the links for those. Those interviews I was doing in New Zealand, by the way, were with my new microphone, which I could only afford, of course, owing to the generosity of listeners like you, and that That's a lovely little Zoom, a new Zoom. I've used Zoom microphones for years, and this is a Zoom that sort of fits onto my iPhone, which works very well indeed, as you no doubt heard in my reports from New Zealand. And in other news relating to cats, I'm delighted to say that our good friend and ace reporter Joe Alabaster has adopted a new little kitten called Mandrake. And I'm even more delighted because that kitten came from the litter of a cat that belongs to my sister. How wonderful is that? So Mandrake, the new little Skeptic Zone kitten way up there in the mountains where Joe lives. So a big shout out to Joe and a big shout out to Mandrake the kitten. Oh, he's such a sweetie, folks. He really is. Well, with thoughts of kittens running around my head for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter @SkepticZone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.